It is a great pleasure and honor for Collectability to welcome Osvaldo Patrizzi here in New York City. Within the watch auction world, there is no one else who can match Osvaldo's contributions to and influence on the watch collecting world. In fact, it's fair to say that Osvaldo Patrizzi really pioneered the watch collecting and auction market, significantly contributing to today's demand for vintage watches. In 1974, Osvaldo Patrizzi founded Antiquorum and built it into the world's leading auction house for fine timepieces and an important source for watch collectors academically. He has achieved countless world records in sales of watches, clocks, and other timekeeping devices at auction. He was also an internet pioneer and was one of the first to bring watch auctions online. Always ahead of the curve, he opened an office in Hong Kong in 1979, many years before any other international auction house opened in Asia. Osvaldo also pioneered the concept of a thematic auction, starting in 1989 with the most legendary of watch auctions, the Art of Patek Philippe, in which over 300 Patek Philippe's were auctioned, including a then world record for the most complicated watch ever made, the Calibre 89, which sold for $3.2 million US, a truly unprecedented sum in the 1980s. Not only is Osvaldo Patrizzi a great scholar of watchmaking and has authored many books on the subject, but he has also gathered and nurtured some of the greatest watch experts in the world. In 2000, he was named to be among the 20 most influential people in the field of horology in the 20th century. Welcome, Osvaldo. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here with us.
Grazie. Thank you. Thank you for this nice presentation. I revive my life, 25 years of my life in your few words. Thank you.
I think it would take more than a few words to tell your stories. And I hope today we could capture some of those magical moments that you've experienced. Thank you. I understand you were just 13 years old when you started your career in timepieces, when you worked with a clock restorer in Milan. What started this interest at such an early age?
The reason is because my father died when I was 13 years old, and I have to bring money in the family, my mother as myself. I have a passion for mechanics, what make working with a wheel and lever and something. And I stay 2-year apprenticeship in Milano in a watch shop. When I was 16 years old, I decided to open my workshop and working well, starting. Nobody in Milano repair anti-clocks. And I have a lot to learn for many reasons. The first is because the Italian mechanic is famous for many things, but for the watches, not so much. Make a lot of clocks, a lot of interesting pieces, but not for the precision. And give me the possibility to explore, to understand a lot of in which way the watchmaker thinking when he prepare, when he make the timepiece. And this open a lot of possibility for practically all the watch made in the world.
And then you soon made the transition to auctions. Why auctions, and what led you so early on to see auctions as a vehicle to buy and sell watches?
Okay, Milano is a big city, but it's Milano. And the way where I have my workshop, the house in front of me is no more than 10 yards. And I think this is too short. My vision of the horological world, I want to do something more worldwide. And I find friend live in Geneva, Gabriele Tortella. We decide together to open something in the Temple of Horology, Geneva. I have a nice welcome from the authority, Geneva authority. I get my permission and we open Galerie d'Horlogerie Ancienne as the first name, become Galerie d'Horlogerie, second, and the third Antiquorum, more easy because you involve everything, not only watches or clocks.
Where did you first meet Gabriele Tortella?
In Milano. He come in my workshop. He asked me if I have a automaton, poupée, because he work in, he's passionate on this, and carillon. and two Italian, one with the vision to go outside, the one with the come in Italy to buy. I think it's easy to meet together and starting something.
I can imagine the two of you having your first coffee together and making plans for the world.
Yeah.
So can you explain what was it like selling watches in the 1970s? What was the market? Was it mostly pocket watches, clocks, wristwatches? How was it in the beginning?
I started in 1974, but on the beginning, clocks and pocket watches. Mostly clocks. Clocks because it's not only for passionate, but also for decoration, furniture, and the people in Italy like English style. And in Switzerland, the more open, more Swiss, German, French horology become very interesting because every clock or watch you have something to learn. But in any case, the first turnover we make with the clocks and pocket watches. The wristwatches, so they have to wait 6-7 more years.
So early on, you've said in other interviews that the Germans were very influential in the early days of collecting. Can you talk about that a bit more, about the German collectors early on?
My situation was very strange in Geneva because Gabriele is Italian, I'm Italian, Geneva is the temple of the watchmaking. Two Italians come in Geneva to explain what is the watches into Switzerland to Swiss people. It's not correct. And the German is much more open, probably it's more close to the decoration pieces with what we like in Italy. And for this reason, we have a nice connection with the German collector, very nice collector.
At first, you had a small team in 1974. How many people?
3. Gabriel, myself, and the wife of Gabriel.
Do you remember your first sale? Where was it?
Oh, yeah, in 1974, Hotel de Berg. We sold for the first time one enamel watch for over 250,000 Swiss francs, crazy. For me, is the beginning of Renaissance collecting horology because nothing working more than money. And the bigger result, interest starting to see what happened, why this piece so small, so nice, beautiful, worth so much money. On the first auction, we have probably 100 people in the room. On the second, we have 400.
What did you consider you had competition with the traditional established auction houses, Sotheby's and Christie's at that point, or was it only you specialized in watches?
We have a two different mentality. The reason, the two different mentality and two different vision of the watches collecting, especially something in motion, clocks and watches. The Sotheby's and Christie's take check by the expert, one you have, and make it for sale in any kind of condition, any kind of spatial interest. My first interest is watchmaking. When I see a watch, I see not only what it is, but in which way it was done, the period was done. When you collect all this information, the condition, when you give the information you want, you guarantee the condition, guarantee the originality because we have the capacity to see that, market booming.
Now, with that vision, you were clearly the first in the industry to offer a grading system with the presentation of each piece within the catalog. Was that your idea personally?
Yeah, because the best way is to give the information right away to the collector. In the same moment you make the description, you go very deeply on the details and make your impression. And I see many people many others said, it was not enough. We want to know why the third tooth of the second wheel is a little. This you have to go to the watchmaker. But if you want to have 60-70% opinion of experts, right opinion, the condition report is important.
I've always respected that you put them in the catalogs. your opinion on condition for the world to see, which is something that no one does today.
Yeah.
And you were doing it 40 years ago.
Well, we do a lot of things. Still today is not used. Yeah. It's different approach. My is come from passion. Thought with Christus and other is for turnover.
Did you personally help choose what goes on the cover of each of your catalogs? Even in my mind, I could imagine and recall many beautiful covers. And I'm wondering how personally you were involved with the covers of the catalogs from
We
that
do
period.
all at home, all made in house. I realized that the cover is not only the function to cover the catalog, but impress the people. Why is important to have a decorative, exciting watch on the cover? Because keep the attention and somebody go and become table book and become interesting to see and to study. It's important, the first impression, and the cover is the first impression.
The cover is the shop door to the world, and you could see that there's passion behind each of the covers, and in particular from that period.
On the beginning, we have 1 pieces, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. After I started to become the film of camera, or I have 8 or 10 or 12 or 14, because I like to make more, because we have a clock collector, chronometer collector, pocket watch collector, enamel collector, race watch collector. You want to show everything, but in the cover is not enough.
It's not enough real estate. I am very curious about the collectors from the 1970s, these early pioneers that were buying from you. Were there any Americans buying at that point in time?
We have some American collector. American collector sent to Geneva the expert or the watchmaker and purchased via this watchmaker or expert.
So mostly there were European buyers.
Swiss, French, Italian, Germany.
And were you the auctioneer personally?
I started to make auction to trier la vente, to make auctioneer on the end of 70s.
Did you enjoy it?
It's exciting.
Yes.
I organize with one psychologist, they tell me, please, what thinking the collector when bidding, and what I have to do to help him to choose. Not too much, because then after you have to pay, but and I have some good information able to keep the attention, because many times the people talking, you not, and please quiet. You have to come more accessible, because the people thinking you the other side of the table, but it's not in this case.
It seems to be the ultimate art form of communication, control, entertainment, and the market.
At the point, one times I realize how long have to stay the collector to buy one watch, maybe on the lot number 10 and drop on 300. You have to stay 4 hours, 5 hours, seat. I said, okay, we have to make more comfortable, and we make the table, and 4 people around direction of the auctioneer, and something to drink, sometimes also some to eat, and the people is very happy because come at auction is not very tiring, but is an event. We don't have to lose.
Now, some of our listeners may not realize this, but you can take credit for naming many watches in the history of watch collecting, rather than just using a reference number, things we take for granted today. For example, a 6239, we now call the Paul Newman. And I think we can give you credit for coming up with
the Paul
that.
Newman name and the Jean-Claude Killy name, I give the name because on the same times, if you think collector side, you understand the collector need more. We need dream. It need dream, not only 6239. Paul Newman, wow.
Do you recall giving any nicknames to any of the Patek Philippe classics from the era, like the Tegolino?
No, this is the Italian way. Padellone or Padellino or the Tegolino or Torre Eiffel. This is not exciting. Tegolino was exciting on Tegolino. Jean-Claude Killy. One day, Jean-Claude come to my office and said, Osvaldo, I come back from Japan. In Japan is crazy. Find me some 6336 because I need to give to my sponsor. Sorry, but Rolex make only 1,000. But it's important to see how the people is interested to approach the symbol and the watch.
I think today every watch has a nickname, but you were doing this before everyone else.
In 1990, the first, Paul Newman, and 2 years later, Jean-Claude Kelly.
Now today, everyone calls discolored Daytona dials Patrizzi dials. How do you feel about that? And when did you first hear that you had a dial named after you?
We come from one self-winding Rolex chrono. Stays, been in the safe with one customer, open the safe after 2 years, and you see the dial become no bad, no toxidite, tech color, tech charm. And I said, but why? And I asked to the singer. I asked to Rolex. Rolex at the time is more open. I give you the information you want. But the singer tell me the reason, probably because Rolex use organic. And this is very susceptible to the X-ray and to the humidity and also the change of the light. One day I started to say that this dial is original, but have this color by the situation, the life of the watch. And the people say, oh, yeah, it's the Patrizzi dial. Thank you. I enjoy to open new way to see some watch. My first impression was very nice because the watch sometimes is much, much, much better to have some charm, some warm color, and it's unique because you don't have two similar. And the people started to make, after the Patrizzi dial, make it because it's sold better.
When your name becomes an adjective, you know you've become immortal. And I think for generations now, we'll be calling these beautiful aged dials Patrizzi dials.
I see last week, I see in auction in Cannes, you have one bottle of Cheval Blanc wine and one Patrizzi dial Daytona. Why you put together? Because we have to want to people that come in, ask the people to come to the cell. Nice.
That's
Thank
fantastic.
you. I not imagine this development at the beginning.
It's incredible.
Become free.
Now, you've worked with some of the greatest horological scholars. I mean, it's a list that no one else can compare to. People that you've worked, people that you've mentored, people that you've taught, and people that you've learned from. But one name comes to mind first and foremost, and that's Jean-Claude Sabrier.
Yeah.
Can you share some memories of when you first met him and some thoughts of your time with Mr. Sabrier?
I meet Jean-Claude in Paris on the Hotel Drouot because it's the place where all experts in watches go to try to find $1 for 50 cents. It's normal. I see with him we have the same direction, the same interest. Jean-Claude much more for French watch horology. I a little more open on German, Italian, Swiss horology. And finally, I asked him if he want to come to work with me, and he agreed. One thing I remember of him, he said, Osvaldo, I learned more in 1 year with you than all my life. But when you have 5,000 watches a year to selling, to checking, to open, to describe, you have a lot to learn. And also with passion.
And you, I'm sure, utilized and saw Mr. Sabrier's library, which is now with FP Journe. What was it like to have access to such a library?
One become expert not only because he like what he do, but by the information he have.
I look back at those years that you worked with Sabrier so closely with complete jealousy, because the conversations and dinners and
Simon
collectors.
Bull. And Simon Bull
yes.
also. Simon Bull is for English.
Let's talk about Simon Bull, because I think many of our listeners may not know him. For any of them who's met him or seen him in Geneva during Sale Week, it's an unforgettable experience. So let's talk about Simon.
No, Simon is one of the major experts for horology from 15th century until 50 years ago. He like wristwatches, but he not have any attraction for them.
Did you have a relationship with Eugene Schwint?
Oh, yes. Schwint is a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
The main work is dentist, but the main profit comes from watches. It's because he's very passionate. He's starting very early. He tell me many times, we make a lot of trip to Geneva, to Hong Kong because every auction in Hong Kong he come. He come with us. We like Hong Kong. He like the way to find new people, meet new people. And he makes some very good small books for French, for German, for English watches. I think he's one of the major supporters of the horology in Switzerland.
And Dr. Schwinn once famously said that one must buy today's watch at the world record price that we expect tomorrow. And I think he acquired some of the greatest pieces ever made with this philosophy of so-called stepping up to buy. What advice do you have for collectors today that are trying to buy the best and the rarest?
Oh, we have a very different world today to collecting. Collecting wristwatches is very different than collecting pocket watches or clocks. Clocks and pocket watches you have at home. You have the pleasure intimate pleasure to appreciate when you go back or your weekend. And wristwatches you have the pleasure to leave your collection every moment. Is the reason why I started to make auction in wristwatches, because wristwatches is the son of the pocket watches, and the pocket watches is the son of the clocks. Particularly the same family. One is more adapted to the today way people live.
Your introduction of thematic watch auctions really changed the industry. In 1989, you organized what is now one of the most iconic themed watch auctions ever, the Art of Patek Philippe, to celebrate the company's 150th anniversary.
It's become with the same position, I'm collector what I like. And finally he said, okay, I collector what I like to have more information, more historical evolution of the name of the watchmaker or the technology. And to do in one auction catalog is impossible because you have 100, 200, 300 watches different. But if you dedicate just to one brand or one watchmaker or one nation, the French horology, the English horology, practically you have the possibility to really expand the connaissance you have and to transmit your connaissance to the people. And we have a lot of success, especially with the Patek and with the Art of Breguet.
With the Art of Patek Philippe sale, was it your idea or was it Philippe Stern's idea?
No, it's my idea, and one day Mr. Stern, I have idea for your 150th anniversary. Oh, okay, what is this? At the time also, he have the
Alan Banbury.
Via Banbury, many times I have the shortcut to go to Philippe Stern. And I explained to him, he said, oh, very good idea, also because nobody do before. When I meet Philippe Stern, I explained the idea. The idea is to create one history of Patek Philippe by the product, not only by the name of Patek, Zapek, Adrian Philippe, all of these kind of people. It's nice, it's interesting, the biography is very exciting to read, but the product is what talking with the customer. I expressed the idea, if you want to do something very unusual, we have to make different exhibition, because nobody come from Los Angeles to buy one wristwatch for 20,000 Swiss francs, because the trip costs much more. We have to go and to give the possibility to appreciate, to check and use. Philip Stern gave to me the possibility to use the structure of Patek Philippe. This is very important, was very important, because it give to us open the port to Tiffany. We have Tiffany in New York, Tiffany in Los Angeles. We have ELPA, we have exhibition where we reduce the expensive a lot. We have the security, and often we give in other place. And in Milano, at the time, we have so many people, we're not able to walk in.
That is extraordinary.
We also, with the thematic cell, with Cartier, we have the same problem in Paris. We have 600-700 people in one room. Incredible. Nobody sees so many people in one auction. But the most interesting is in what you said is Patek and Breguet. You know, in Patek Philippe, at a certain point, I realized, oh my God, we have a lot of questions, and a lot of people want to come. In which way we don't want to have a problem, too many people in the room, all fall down. I don't want to have 700 or 800 people on my conscience. And I asked to the guy of the security, the fireman in Geneva, to check how many people have to stay in 1 square meter for not have any problems. So just 7. 7 is enough. 7 enough, because 7 is
It's quite crowded.
It's quite crowded. But we have a lot. At a certain point, we needed to open one other auction room on the side of Hotel de Bergue, and we have 600-700 people in the main room and 250 in the second room with a TV, camera, and everything.
Were you the auctioneer for the entire sale?
Yeah.
Wow. How many bidders were there for the Calibrating 9? Do you remember?
Not, depend, just 3.2, 3.4, 5 or 6 after 2.
That's extraordinary. And was Alan Banbury very active in this sale, in its organization or buying?
No, but he helped me a lot, because we sell the watches with guarantee by Patek Philippe. In a sense, each watch is checked by Patek Philippe, is original. And he organized in Patek Philippe one team, the watchmaker, able to check each watch and to make the guarantee paper, and everything is okay.
With pocket watches, in your opinion, are they a more pure form of collecting, just because the simple fact that there's less things that could have been modified over time than we see with wristwatches?
It's more difficult because you need the watchmaker able to know the history, and the history of the watch or the model, and where you find the spare part.
That very much speaks to us, and is one of the reasons we love pocket watches. And recently, here we're sitting among a large collection of Patek Philippe master clocks from the 1960s to 70s. And one of the reasons we love these so much is because it is from the passion of one collector. His name was Michael Schuldes. And possibly some of these clocks you've seen before, and they might have found their way to Mr. Schuldes. Can you talk about your insight into the quartz revolution and these master timing systems that we're sitting among?
The collection of Mr. Schulzer was very pointed to the electronics. He loved the precision. He wanted to have the maximum in good condition, and also he hope he's able to repair. Not every day, because if one one wheel broken in one pocket watch, one good watchmaker able to replace. But when you have several transistors missing, I don't know where you find today. And I think is a step on the history of horology, especially in Patek Philippe, because he makes something different, something for industry, mostly for industry, for the hotel, for the airport. It's important. It's a good, important instrument. Unfortunately, your mobile phone is more precise, but what happened in the 50 year, you have the atomic wristwatch, probably.
It's true. I think these clocks represent a certain chapter that has a beginning point and an ending point. And it's fun that now that time has passed, we could look back to this period from the 60s, 70s, 80s as very rich in design, of course, technology.
Yeah, but also is a logical step to arrival what we have today. Is you don't come today without this step. You don't come because you have the evolution, important evolution, especially on this kind of clocks.
Speaking of the future, what do you envision the next 10 years will be like for Patek Philippe? What does the future hold?
It's not my job to imagine what Patek Philippe have to do to keep the supremacy on this world. I just don't go so far from don't go so far from what the history make you so important, because the people like the way you do. They like your history, like to recognize 200 years of development, not just something more complicated, because finally at the end, the complication, you need the hour, minute hand, second hand, the calendar sometimes is not too small. And finally, I think don't have to change the line of the evolution of the brand.
For my final statement, I have a question for you.
Oh.
What are you up to these days?
With my time, we're talking sometimes with. Recently, I said, "Oh, we tired. Why you not?" But finally, it's impossible, because when you are expert in something, and every day you learn something, every day you have occasion to find something, why you have to stop? Because all your cultural baggage is with you. You bring with you. When I left, okay, somebody other take the place. But now, if I don't continue different speed, I all what I do is for nothing.
It's beautifully said. And sitting here with you, a legend in horology, I see you found the secret ingredients. And I just want to sum it up with what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. Number one, it's expertise and always a constant search for knowledge, a technical mastery and appreciation for what watchmakers have done, past and present. Number two is your passion and your enthusiasm. I could see it in your eyes. I mean, you talk about watches and just light up, and it's a beautiful thing.
Because I have a 60, 70 watt clocks at home. We have 40 in New York. You have I have the physical contact with my pieces. And when don't working well, I so unhappy, and because I become nervous, because why? Because something, if it don't work in every reason, it's not just because it's a stupid I not. It's because something happened inside, or I spend hour to thinking after I open, and I go to check where is the reason. It's a really pleasure. A really pleasure is my hobby. Now is more hobby than work, but I still with a few customers. I still in contact, and I try to help with some suggestion or some information to keep alive this passion, because it's nice. It's nice. It's very nice.
And your knowledge and passion, what I've seen you've done and are doing in your career is you're sharing it with a marketing genius. What you've done with the thematic sales, what you've done in the auction world, you've taken this passion and shared it with so many, and you've literally infected many with this passion. And I want to thank you for that on behalf of the collecting community. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. I want to thank you so much, Osvaldo. And this has been an extremely fascinating conversation. And I hope we could do this again sometime, because I have about 100 other questions I'd like to ask you.
With pleasure. If you're not scary about my English, with pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to this most recent episode in our series of Collectability podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe so that you do not miss any future episodes. This is John Reardon for Collectability.